Okay, pleasant day to everyone, all the Shopee viewers and potential buyers of UP Press titles. This is our second interview with our UP Press author, and the featured author is Dr. Gemino Abad, Jimmy Abad to his friends. He's Professor Emeritus at the UP Diliman, and he's also um, a well-known critic, a poet, essayist, fictionist, and of course, a teacher of literature and creative writing. He is he has a new book, and I don't know pang ilan na tong libro na to, Jimmy. It's probably your 50th book. But it's the title is When Bridges Are Down, Mountains Too Far. And it's a collection of poems. Some of the poems are new, but there are also a few poems that are actually revisitations. No, these are poems written before. Probably they had come out in an earlier version somewhere else, but our author has revised them and rewritten them, and now they constitute one new collection. And we would like to ask our author, Dr. Jimmy Abad, Jimmy, about this book. Jimmy, can you describe to us your new title? What is it about? How long did it take you to write it?
Um, well, it's about um,
Poetry.
no matter what troubles there are in your life, you must not lose heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must keep a kind of cheer of spirit. Yeah,
Okay.
never give up. Yes.
That is
Uh,
the title poem, Jimmy. That's the point of your title poem.
yeah.
When the bridges are down.
Yeah. Well, when bridges are down and there is some crisis you are running away from,
Yeah.
you would like to go to the mountain where you might be safe, like during the war.
But they're
We,
too
our
far.
family experienced that.
Yes, yes.
There was there was some rumor that the Japanese were going to massacre the civilian population
Tumanhog.
to avenge the killing of their own soldiers by some guerrillas from the mountain. And so we fled, and our refuge would be up in the mountains. This was in Barili in Cebu. Yeah, so I took it from there.
Well, you
When
say
bridges are down, but mountains are too far,
you
and
say
bridges
don't
are
lose
down.
heart.
You can go flee to the mountain. You cannot. The bridges are down, but don't lose heart.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the whole point.
that's the
Yeah,
point. Yes.
yeah.
But Jimmy, is this is different from your other books in the sense that you have deliberately chosen older poems that are more or less in keeping with the theme of not losing faith and taking heart. So did you have to look at so many other older poems to find those themes, that theme in those poems?
Say that again. I can't quite get it.
Yeah, because you have a theme. You have the theme of taking heart and not losing faith, right? In the face
Yes.
of adversity. And you
Uh,
revisited some of your earlier work. Did you have a hard time trying to identify those pieces from the earlier books that will fit this theme of yours?
Uh, I'm not sure. I really am not sure. If I look at the book of contents, the book, the poems are classified according to the main theme.
Mhm.
For example, the theme of the self, and then the theme of family, and then there's the theme of language and poetry as a theme, and
Mhm.
then the country as a theme, but very general, no? Yung
Yes,
theme.
yes.
Now, yung when bridges are down, mountains too far, that is I classify that under the theme of mind and imagination.
Not
Yeah.
family.
Uh, yeah. Uh, uh, so, what is the connection between mind, imagination, and not losing heart? Right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Well, this is to go straight to the point. Uh, you have only yourself, no? You have only yourself, and it is your mind that will help you deal with whatever problems you have,
Mm.
no? But you have it is both mind and imagination. You know why I put them together?
Why?
Because
Why?
uh, because to think well is to imagine well. They go together. Yeah, they go together. Yeah. And I have a line there. I have a line there which says, somewhere in that poem, I have a line there which says that it is not it joy, cheer of spirit. It does not move mountains. It doesn't move mountains. Let me get that line. Uh, Joy doesn't move mountains. Uh, yeah, yeah. Joy or cheer of spirit does not move mountains. It only makes them yield.
Mm.
I'm playing with
which
the
is
word.
which is even
Yeah.
a greater feat than just moving a mountain.
Joy does not cheer of spirit. Uh,
But
Actually, you
Jimmy,
know,
is
uh,
the cheer of your spirit dependent upon the imagination? I mean, uh, given the adversity of the that confronts, let's say, the body, like now we're in the midst of a global health crisis, Gemino. All our bodies are imperiled. Bodies, particularly of vulnerable people, particularly the frontliners, those working in the hospitals, the bodies of patients, and so many now cases, no, of people testing positive for COVID. Is the imagination your go-to place? Therefore, is the imagination the great consoler? Is that
yeah,
is that the is that the message? Partly the message you're trying to communicate here is that
yes.
if we are fettered, if the body is imperiled, if the mountains are too far and all the bridges are down, to take heart means to find refuge in the imagination.
Mm, yeah, but we have to be careful, no? Yeah. Uh, yeah. Well, let me put it this way. Sometimes you tell yourself, get real. Na? Di ba? Ah,
Yeah.
what does that mean? What does that mean to get real? Now, to, you know, uh, I will digress a little, Neil. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, every little thing, every living thing, animal or plant, has a sense of reality. Is that correct? Even a mosquito will have a sense of reality. A cat will have a sense of reality. What does that mean?
Well, I do
They are
believe
aware. Huh?
consciousness is not the monopoly of
Sen-
human beings.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
the whole
Sense
universe
of
is
reality.
conscious. Yes.
Okay? Okay. Now, therefore, sense of reality is your consciousness or awareness of reality, your world. Okay? Now, now, what does it mean to get real? You know what it means? To make sense. That's what that's what it means. No? To get real is to make sense. Make sense of your life. Now, to get real is to know yourself. That's what it means. To get real is to know yourself. No?
Does
So,
it mean so it means to be self-aware, to be
yes,
so
yes. the only reality you have is your own. Is that correct? You have no other reality but your own. You have no access to the consciousness of the other person. No access
But
except
maybe,
your
Jimmy,
own
yes,
consciousness.
but
Okay?
I
So
believe
get
that.
real.
But on the other hand, I think that consciousness is actually across people, not just in individual uh, minds. So actually, there is no consciousness without the other. There is no self without the other. So in a way, all from the very beginning, consciousness is social, Jimmy.
No, no, no. Consciousness, they're all the same, Neil. Consciousness, the inner self, psyche,
So it is a
soul,
shared, yeah, but the reality is
spirit,
always shared. In other words,
mind, imagination. That's you.
yes, but it's
Yeah.
always shared. In my opinion, it's not solitary. Maybe we're very different from each other in that sense. I think that, for example, um, can
It is
let's,
shared. How is it shared?
for example,
How
you
is it
two
shared?
at least two minds have to agree that this
I
rock
know.
is real for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
rock to be
Uh,
real.
that means you have to communicate,
In other words,
correct?
subjectivity is always intersubjectivity. There has
Correct.
to be someone
Yeah.
else, another mind or consciousness affirming it for you, because you yourself will not be able to decide on whether it's real.
No, no, you know exactly what is real. You know exactly what is real. Although, although, although you have to be prudent also. Diba? You have to be discerning. You
Hmm.
have to think well.
I
You
think
have to
I think
think
Jimmy, I
well.
think our difference is that in my belief that the other is already inside the self. And so there is really
Uh,
no distinction in the end between self and other. That the dualism is an illusion, and that we are actually.
no, no, Neil. No, yeah, I think we can understand each other here. I am not denying. I am not denying that you're all by yourself throughout your life. No, no, no. I'm not denying that at all. No, all I am saying is uh, we we need we need to understand from the very beginning that whatever you are aware of, the other person may not be aware of. He may have a different sense of reality. No? What is real to you may not be real to him. What is
Yeah,
true for you may not be true to him. No? That's why we have language so we can communicate. No? But we cannot enter each other's consciousness. We have no access to the other person's consciousness. That's why we need language to communicate with each other. No? And
yeah,
that's why we're not alone, because we can communicate.
yeah.
We can
And
relate.
poetry is the best kind of language there is, because
That's
it
right.
doesn't just communicate, does it, Jimmy? It also creates and evokes
Yes.
and
Yes.
multiplies
Yeah,
meaning rather than limits it.
that's right. You
Yes.
know? Yeah. But you know what? You know what? I really think, Neil, uh, the our mind, our imagination evolves. It is evolving. Humanity's consciousness is evolving. No? And, di ba? People relate, they intercommunicate, languages borrow words from each other.
Yes.
Every language is a consciousness, a people's consciousness of their own way of thinking and feeling, their own sense of reality. But people communicate, di ba? They
Yes.
interrelate. And so our consciousness of reality keeps expanding. Yeah, it keeps expanding. Our consciousness of reality. There's no limit. Yeah,
Jimmy, do you know what this feels like? It's supposed to be a Zoom interview, which will promote the book. It feels like we're in your old faculty center office and we're having kalua. And we're having one of these wonderful conversations about the nature of life and the nature of the world
yeah,
and the role of art and poetry in it. But I think that particularly in the difficult situation we are in as a country and as a world right now, maybe the message to remember is that we have the arts and we have poetry to help us find our way through this darkness. That poetry is a way of envisioning um, alternatives and future directions and uh, future realities. But also, at the same time, poetry consoles us and makes us realize how we are not alone and that we have this shared community, we have this shared um, um, solidarity with others. I'm thinking, Jimmy, that when you say that we have language so that we can communicate, the language is actually given to us. We are not originating it. We are born into language. We are born into a world that already has language in it. So in a way, when we write, we're actually tapping into that whole human history of that language, and it already links us to a past, it links us to a community, it links us to other minds and consciousnesses, which is why I was saying in the beginning that I think that the consciousness is never in fact just alone or solitary, it's always social, because language through which consciousness exists is social, it's a social accomplishment. There would be no
yeah,
language if there were no society, if there were no people talking, communicating.
yeah. But I want to add something to that. I'm not, I'm not, uh, I'm not denying anything that you said. No, uh, um, every it is language that makes possible the human community.
Mm,
Okay, yeah, okay. That's where the human community begins with
yeah.
language. But there are communities and communities all over the world. Every people has its own language. A
Mm,
people's language is a people's consciousness. No? It is a people's sense of their reality, of their world. It is the embodiment of their way of thinking and feeling. Every language as a community. No? Now, whether it is Chinese language or Tagalog language, no, it is a people's way of thinking and feeling, which may be different from other people's way of thinking and feeling. Okay? But people, they meet. Di ba? They travel, they meet, they interact, and languages also interact. That is how humanity's consciousness will expand. Yeah? And therefore, the entire trend of human evolution of human consciousness is toward a universal community. You know, I play with the word. When you say community, you mean unity.
mm,
And when you say communion, you mean
yeah.
communion. So, in other words, our peoples, different languages, different people, different ways of thinking and feeling, they will somehow begin to understand each other, and that way we will have something better than the United Nations. We will have a universal consciousness, universal communion. Yeah, that is the for
But
me, huh?
if you're a linguist
Yeah.
and you understand the evolution of languages, you know that actually all these linguistic families are all rooted in the same Ur language, right? So in fact, at
Oh,
the very
sure.
beginning of human history, there was only probably one language.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think
You
so
don't think
because
so?
people, no, people who go around and they meet other people and so forth. No, I don't think so. No, yeah, I don't
You
think
think
so.
the
There are
cradle of
different languages. There are different languages. There are
no, not really,
different
but
communities.
humanity came out of Africa, though there is a single point at which from which human migration started. And so you
Yeah.
understand that there is an Ur language, and the linguists are already finding it, actually, tracing it
I
in
don't
terms
think
of
so.
these root
Yeah.
words,
No,
Jimmy.
I don't think so. They separate.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. But then in
yeah.
the beginning, the language was one. So it's a
Nah,
movement towards the same union, I think.
nah. A matter
Maybe
of
I
speculation.
no, no,
It's
no,
a
Jimmy.
speculation.
I'm thinking of mythology, which is its own language, and how universal mythologies are, and
Oh,
how
there are different mythologies.
yes, but
Yeah.
there's so many patterns that are similar. Meaning,
No, I don't
if
think
you
so.
surmise, if you infer, you might find actually a common point at which from which mythology started.
No,
Anyway,
no,
it's a different
no.
thing. But let's go back to your book, Jimmy, because this is all about trying to get the reader
No,
interested
my
in
book, my book ends with my own poetics, no? My own thinking about language, imagination, poetry, and so forth. Yeah, the fundamental thing about it, Neil, is um, let me put it in one sentence. Uh, the uh, yeah, the sense for language is the basic poetic sense. That sums it up. Huh? The sense for language is the basic poetic sense. And if you look up the word poem, it comes from the Greek word poiein, to make, poiein, to
mm,
make. Therefore, a
poiesis is
poem,
unpacking.
poiein, to make.
Mm,
Therefore, a poem is a thing made of words. What it is made of is words. And all we have for our sense of reality is words. We have no other means for our contact or sense of reality. No other means. Like birds have their own means for communication, for their own sense of relating. Yeah,
yeah, but I'm
that's
thinking
how
words.
important language
Yeah,
is.
but I would probably say
Sense of reality.
words can be actually gestures, can be the movement of the body itself. Words can be musical notes. Words can be um, colors on a canvas. Can
Yeah,
be
yeah,
can
of
yeah.
course. Yes,
So all
yeah,
of art,
yeah,
not just poetry, not just literature, but all of art.
yes, yeah,
Yes,
yes, yeah. In fact, words are all figures lang, signs.
for science. Yes,
No, they're just figures, runes, hieroglyphics, Chinese characters, our own. What is our own alphabet in Tagalog before the Spaniards came? Uh,
alibata. Yung writing
we
that
have
the
our
script.
own alphabet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those are translations of human sounds. Words are translations of human sounds.
The technologized. The script is the technologizing of the spoken word.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
But
Oh.
Jimmy, so what do you think now? Because we're in the midst of a pandemic, what should writers be writing about?
Ah, you know, for me, especially if we're talking about, I consider the literary work or the so-called creative or imaginative work, literary work, whether poem or short story or whatnot, whatever you might call it, uh, you know, I consider the main subject of a poem or short story or any literary work is a human experience, and the job of the writer is to make it real, to make that experience real by means of words. Can you imagine that? Yeah. And you have no other means but words to make your experience come alive again. Your thought, your feeling, you resurrect them with words. Yeah. That's why you struggle with your medium when you're right. Yeah. You struggle with your medium. You forge the language. You might even reinvent it, like E. E. Cummings does, or Gerard Manley Hopkins. All the poets, all imaginative writers forge the language anew. Yeah? You
Yeah.
shape
So
the language
I
with
think
your
that is the
thought and
difference.
your feeling.
Yes. The
Yeah.
poets in particular, we all arrive in the scene of writing with a language already given to us, but the challenge
Yeah.
is to actually make that language our own.
Yes. You know, you know, itong libro na ito, I talk about it. Language, language. Language is all
Yeah.
the human being has. Na, without language, we would have no memory, for example, no community, no culture, no civilization. Yeah. But every language embodies a way. No, Neil, I must emphasize this. From birth, from birth, we are shaped, our consciousness is shaped by the language that we speak, that our parents speak, that we grow up with, that we are educated in. So we actually absorb other languages, correct?
Yeah.
Even even Tagalog has many Spanish words and so forth, no? Etc. No? So therefore, from birth, we're already shaped by language. We're already spoken for, but we can speak back. We can speak back. And this is how we can even change a community's way of thinking. Yeah. A people's way of thinking can change. Yeah. And
What
that's the
way of
writer's
what
job, huh?
can we zero in on that, Jimmy? What way of
Oh,
thinking should we change, particularly now that we are going through this very serious public health crisis?
yeah. You know, for me, Neil, for me, whatever problems the world has, the only solution that I can find is a better education, better education for the citizens. That should be primary in any country.
But the challenge,
Education.
Jimmy, is we cannot have face-to-face education now. We can only do remote or distance education because we
Correct.
cannot meet
Yeah.
in classrooms.
All, all the more,
We
all
should
the
get,
more. And
but
you know what? You know what I want really to develop in the education of our young people, the sense for language. That's what I want to sharpen. The sense for language.
but Jimmy,
Every word you use,
you know what's
our
happening right
word,
now, right?
I want to add to that. Our words speak true all the time. Our words speak true. All our words. Only the liar abuses language. Only the liar corrupts language. But all our words speak true. A rose is a rose is a rose.
But
Diba,
what's lovely
Gertrude
now, Jimmy,
Stein?
is what's lovely
Yeah.
now is because we have the internet and we have this multimedia technology. Words can
Naku,
actually be accessed in more ways rather other than just reading them from a book.
yeah.
Right now, we're doing this interview and we're speaking these nice words, and it's happening through the computer screen. Uh, and if you're now an online teacher, you can actually access all sorts of material. You don't have to get stuck to the book. You can actually make your students respond to things that you see, like films, to listen to music, to go visit virtual museums and look at galleries and experience art virtually. through the medium of the internet. So I think that we have many opportunities at the same time that things seem to be limited, and we seem to be fettered by the situation. We actually have some opportunities to be able to um, take language education to a different level. Because
Yeah.
I think the education you are speaking about is really an education in getting to appreciate language more and getting to master language better,
Yeah.
so that our students can use the language not only to express themselves but also to actually create new realities through that language.
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
a poem is a new thing, it's a poesis, it's a made thing. It is not just a mimesis, it's not just an imitation of what exists, it's actually adding something to reality. Before a poem is written, the reality to which it refers actually is limited. But then the poem adds to that reality the moment it has been written. So poetry actually is an addition to creation. It is another kind of creation. It continues the original creation. Takes it to different directions.
Actually, actually, Anna, I want to add to that. You know, what some of our young people may be losing is the ability to read well. Yeah, because reading requires a strong sense for language. Yeah, a strong sense of language. That is the basic poetic sense, the sense for language. And some students cannot read more than one paragraph. They're spoiled already by the internet. No, it ay nako. Reading is already a horrible discipline for them. Yeah, they're
Jimmy,
not
I think
able.
we should try to maybe think outside the box and think of
Yeah,
think of
mm,
an audiovisual literacy, which is very different from just print literacy. The,
yeah,
the
no,
young people now are actually very literate in the reading of videos, in the reading of um, Instagram posts, in the reading of social media posts. They have their own, it's a different kind of literacy. For me,
yeah,
literacy is always a good thing. And if we
uh-huh,
cannot have traditional literacy, then at least we should have some other kind of literacy. And
yeah,
maybe the
okay,
challenge to educators is to try to learn the literacy now of the young, rather than actually uh, condemn that literacy and say it's invalid or it is inferior.
yeah. You cannot get away from reading. You
Yes,
cannot get away from reading. Yeah.
yes, but you can read this. You can read a film, Jimmy.
Mm,
Someone, a young person who is so used to watching cinema,
mm,
understands cinematic language.
mm,
So
yeah.
that's very different. And that person might actually express himself best not through an essay or a story, but through the creation
Mm.
of another film.
Correct. Ah, yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
will agree
so
with that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Ah,
literacy for me is a good thing, and whatever form it takes, we should be excited about it.
yes, yes.
And now that we have the internet as the primary means of of promoting education because of the pandemic, we should actually take this as an opportunity to learn the literacy of the internet and to try to see how our students see things from their
Yeah.
own perspective.
Yeah, yeah, I will have no quarrel with that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jimmy, maybe a last question because we're running out of time. Um, this has been Ayuda, such a joy because we used to meet regularly in your office and we used to
I
talk.
miss that. I
I
miss
miss
that.
that.
Yeah.
Of course, the office is no more and that building is no more. And
No more.
because our lives have also been very
Yeah.
hectic of late, we've not been able to do this. But this is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you're with me now and we're able to do this.
Yeah.
But maybe I want to ask you about what do you think is the future direction for Philippine letters? And where would you want it to go? What are the things you would like for Philippine literature to accomplish and for writers to do in the future, in the imminent future?
Mm. Well,
Do you have a wish list for Philippine literature, Jimmy?
well, um, I want, I want, you know, um, uh, I want our writers to, because they are writers, no? Uh, I want them to master their medium and even um, reinvent it in some way. Yeah. Uh, you just have to master your medium. Whether you are a painter or a writer, you have to have a mastery of your medium. And as a writer, your medium is words, language. Now, if you're into film, then your medium is the film. You master you master whatever is involved in filmmaking, correct? Ganon
Yeah.
din sa writing. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Uh, see, you, you as I like to put it, no, you forge your own path through the lexical, grammatical wilderness of language and make your own clearing in that wilderness.
Mm.
That's what the writer does.
That's what the artist does. Yes.
Yeah, lexical wilderness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kanina, I was struck by the Tagalog word pintakasi.
Mm.
What does it mean? Pintakasi. I had to look it up in the dictionary because I am not really a Tagalog writer. No, it has several meanings.
Yes.
Na? Ganun ang words. So
Mm.
you have to master the words of that language because when you are writing, they quarrel with each other. You have to choose well which word, which word will shape your thought and your feeling best in what order. The words
The
in
best
what
words in the best
order.
order.
Oh no,
But
what
Jimmy, for
syntax.
me, my I think I would like more novels to be written in all our
Oh,
languages,
yeah.
and I would like those novels to be psychological realist novels,
Uh-huh.
or to have that kind of psychological depth, which seems to be very hard to capture, particularly in English.
Mm.
The novels in Filipino have it. The novels in English don't seem to have a lot of that.
Yeah.
So that's for me, a very clear wish I have for Philippine literature in English to produce, to generate more novels, and for those novels to actually have that psychological depth that's missing, that seems to be missing.
Yeah. In one phrase, Neil, I would say for the writer, to answer, the writer answers the call of language. Yeah? And then you must remember, language and imagination are one because language was invented by the imagination. They are one. Na? Okay. So, uh, the only thing that the writer has to do, for so long as a master of the language, you know, just one word, get real.
Mm.
Your subject,
Jimmy, I want to tell
resurrect,
you, because we're in the arts, so we believe that
get real.
language is important, that they are that the beginning of civilization is when humanity started using language well and
Uh,
producing works of art. But do you
yeah.
know that the anthropologist Margaret Mead was asked that question of what for her is the hallmark of the beginning of a human civilization, and she said it's a healed femur bone.
Again?
The femur bone, the leg bone.
Hmm.
Yes. If you're an archaeologist, anthropologist, and you see among human remains in a cave a
Uh-huh.
femur that's been healed, then you begin to suspect, or to you begin to realize that that community was civilized, because that's the beginning of empathy, really.
Mm.
A healed femur bone means that the person who got injured, his bone got broken, was cared for, and his community allowed him to have that bone heal. And so for me, yes, that's also an interesting lesson to pick up from social science, from archaeology, and from anthropology. It's not just when art started being produced that we can declare the beginning of a civilization, but also when empathy started becoming a social reality. When people started caring for each other and making sure each other recovers from injuries and gets better.
Yes.
And it seems to be an apropos way to end this conversation, because now we have frontliners who are taking care of us, who are in the hospitals and helping people recover from their illnesses. And that for me is also a wonderful, great thing to remember and to celebrate, alongside books, alongside works of literature and works of art. We should celebrate the heroism of our doctors and nurses and frontliners working at the health at the public health facilities of our country, given the situation we are in. Okay, so Jimmy, I'd like to end there. Is it okay?
Yeah.
This has been wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Thanks a
uh,
lot, man.
again,
Yeah.
this is the book of Jimmy Abad. It's called When Bridges Are Down, Mountains Too Far. When the world seems to be a very dark place and the adversities are left and right, then we should always take heart, never lose hope, and keep on believing. And
Yeah.
we have our imagination to show us the way, to open the path for us. The
Yes.
imagination is the path of empathy also. You can only empathize when you can imagine how it is to be another person.
That's
And
right.
you realize that you and the other person have a shared humanity, and so you care about each other.
Yeah.
And poetry and the arts help us have empathy. And our frontliners are, of course, the champions of empathy. And we should all try, do our best to protect them by staying at home and, and not making things more difficult for our hospitals. Okay, so that's it, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your wonderful new book.
Thank
I've
you.
actually finished half of it already. And when I'm done
Thank
reading
you,
it, we
Neil.
will have merienda and we will talk some more. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right. Good afternoon to all our viewers, and continue shopping at Shopee. UP Press titles. Okay? Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Yeah.